Okay, so we are doing an interview between myself, Sarah, from Herding Little Cows, and oldest daughter, Virginia, who is 16. And we got some questions that Virginia had, some questions that were sent in by some of our viewers. And Virginia's going to ask me the questions, and I'm going to do my best to answer them.
Okay. When you were my age, what were you planning to do in your adult life?
When I was 16, so like when I was in high school, I wanted to be one of three things: either President of the United States, a special ed teacher, or what was the other thing? Oh, athletic trainer, like traveling with a sports team, taking care of injuries.
How did you pursue those things?
President of the United States, we might have some noise. Tell her to go in the other door. That might be cut. Might not. So President of the United States, I went off to Dirigo Girls State is what they call it, which is, I don't know how you explain it, but I think it was a week that you went with a bunch of other kids that were interested in government type thing, or a bunch of other girls that were interested in these things, and we did mock trials, and I remember we had to pretend we were a campaign. We talked through that. People played different roles. We learned a lot about what happens in the different branches of the government. I went to that, and I also went to training. I forget what it was called, but it was in Washington, D.C., where we did the same type of thing, learning about government, learning how different things work within the government with different groups of people. Did mock legislation and those types of things. So yes, I wanted to be President of the United States. Second thing, special education teacher. I worked for multiple years during my high school time. I would go during my study halls, and I'd work in a special education classroom that was in the middle school, working with a teacher. The kids that I was working with they weren't kids who had just a reading disability or math issues. They were kids who would do well to learn to count money and be able to hold a simple job. Many different high needs. So I worked in her classroom during my study halls, during my study halls, and I also worked at the summer camp with kids with special needs. I also went to Special Olympics, which is where they go and compete in different activities. We'd go for the weekend, so it involved all the care of these special needs kids during that time. And I also worked in a standard classroom during that time where I was helping with kids who needed a little bit of reading help or math help, or the teacher just needed, some activity did not get done that I would help the kids with in the course of the day. So that's how I pursued those things.
And athletic trainer.
Oh, athletic trainer, sorry. I went to a couple different classes, a weekend long class at one place. I forget where that was right now. And a week long class in New Hampshire, where I learned how to tape ankles and take care of bleeding injuries and take care of eye injuries and when to call the ambulance for different things. So I went to different trainings, plus I was doing research on my own on those things. And then I worked with sports teams. Most of the years of my high school career, there were a couple different times that I didn't, like my senior year, I had mono for a while, so I did not work with the basketball team that year, but would help with wrapping ankles before the game, taking care of injuries during the game, and also keeping books for the teams, who scored the goals and those types of things, which involved working specifically with the vice principal of the school, who was the head athletic trainer, athletic director guy of the school. So working with him through those different years.
Do you ever use any of the knowledge gained pursuing those goals in your current lifestyle?
Absolutely. Not becoming president of the United States. I don't want to be president of the United States anymore. Donald Trump can have that job, or whoever else we elect in next time. That's not something I want to pursue. But knowing about government is important for everybody in our country, to know what the actual laws are, and when those laws are being justly executed or unjustly executed. So any government study is good for anybody to be a good citizen of the United States. The special education teacher, and just working in a regular classroom, I now am homeschooling. This year we will have 4 students, and so I use the education of just going through math and reading and those types of things. And also we have a special needs child. Josiah is 7 and has cerebral palsy and seizures, and so I deal with that, those issues that come with his specific learning, that I need to change his learning style for different things. Some of them are as easy as, or as basic as, realizing he can't use a pair of scissors the way that other kids do, and so needing to tweak, if we're doing like a lesson from a book, needing to tweak the lesson for him, but also just realizing what things he struggles with. I also use some of my special education training, just working with my husband who has neurological issues. They're not quite seizures, but he has issues with communication, and so trying to work through how his brain processes things so I can help him by me doing the processing that his brain can't do. There's something I was going to say. Oh, and with the special education piece, I also did 1 year of college for special education. I forgot to say that. I'm pursuing it. And then the athletic training, I definitely use, because when you've got this many children in a household, we've got 6 children that we're taking care of outside the womb and the one inside the womb. I don't have to use the athletic training stuff on the one inside the womb. He's still fairly safe. But the other kids like to do things to hurt themselves, like when they're riding bikes, or the normal rashes and things you see on kids. And the information that I learned from the sports training is applied on a regular basis, of when is the need to go see the doctor, or how to take care of an injury at home before having to go to the ER in the middle of the night because some kid hit their head or what.